Throughout this process, I have supported the concept of expanded safe space in the Rio Grande area. And in order to move forward with the potential closure of the roadway, I had requested a few things that we are now getting into place. Part of that is a public process. And we launched a public survey today that the public can take in helping us understand how the community feels about this creation of safe space. Also, on Wednesday, on the 6th, we will be at 6 p.m. On Wednesday at 6 p.m., we will be hosting at the Gateway a community forum that will allow for the public to meet with myself and the speaker to share their thoughts about a potential road closure on a segment of the Rio Grande Street. The other piece that is in play is the preservation of the City Council's authority and the public benefits analysis that will occur over the next several weeks. And then indemnification for the city. I wanted to make sure that that piece was in play, and that is a part of the lease agreement that we are still working on and hoping to finalize next week. So all of these things are coming together, providing us a path forward and an opportunity to temporarily close the road tomorrow with barriers for vehicle traffic only. This segment of the street will continue to be open to the public, and we will look at a longer lease agreement subject to council approval and the public benefits analysis later in September. Do you have anything else?
Sure. Well, look, I want to thank the mayor for coming. We've been discussing this for some time. I think if anyone's been paying attention to this issue, time is of the highest urgency in getting this done. We've made great progress. However, there's a momentum with this. There are those that I would say in a drug trafficking way would love to be reunited with those they've been preying upon for years. And this safe space is integral to the Operation Rio Grande and getting this done. We needed to make this happen, and we've been working together, and we're taking steps forward even this weekend, where we're going to close down that area to vehicular traffic. We're going to continue forward on a process, and as everyone here knows, yesterday was my pace, yesterday was my deadline. I will take any step moving forward and getting this done, because it is so critical that this happen and that we give really the barriers of services that have been happening for years. People afraid to seek shelter at the road home. People have been afraid to seek the services at the Catholic Community Center, at the Wiegand Center. We need to reduce those barriers. The way you do that is you create that truly safe space. And so we are going to work mightily hard to get to that spot. This is an important announcement today, that we are beginning that process. And I think that as we see this holiday weekend coming forward, I do think it's going to thwart the drug dealers and the drug traffickers to see that that road is not the McDonald's drive-through of drug dealing. So we're going to stop that, and we're going to keep moving forward. I want to thank the mayor for cooperating. Thank you.
Well, it's been a journey, but one worth taking, and I'm very grateful for the work that we've been able to do together to make sure that this community's voice is heard in this process. The other piece that is in play is our service providers are standing ready to help provide services in that expanded safe space that will be created through these barriers. And so I'm very excited about that piece as well. As you know, it was an important piece for me. So at this point, I think we'll take any questions you might have.
So the barriers will be up. Will people be searched before they can get in? Or I thought you said it will still be open to the public. How will that work? Because I know the safe spaces, people not being able to bring drugs and weapons.
You know, we're trying to eliminate the vehicle traffic right now. It's another element of the criminal activity that goes on by limiting vehicular traffic in this area and being able to set up a space that allows for the service providers to actually provide some additional services in that area. I think you will see that it's a real opportunity for us to again have additional impact on the criminal element in this neighborhood.
How long will it take to get to what you want as your official safe space? I know you said it would take a week
We're getting
or two.
along. Do you have to really ruin that?
Well,
Give me a timeline here.
I can tell you that on Tuesday, I sent a transmittal over to the city council for, it really kind of launches our process here. It creates a potential of this being on an agenda for September 12th, and then a public hearing and potential vote on September 19th for the council.
And then I would extend it for a longer, because you say temporarily, Mayor, so obviously.
Sure. Yes.
This is concurrent with these hearings and.
Yes, the council has final say on the temporary closure, and then the lease agreement that could be signed next week after I do my public forum. That is a lease agreement between the city and the state on this potential property. In that lease agreement, if the council votes to not continue with that lease agreement, then we're back to the drawing board.
Do you anticipate that could happen? That something could reverse this either on the council's part or something else?
Well, I think, Daniel, it's up to us as public servants to really inform the public on this process. The mayor has administratively the ability to close on a temporary basis that section of that street. She's been concerned about the process that we would take on as legislators in creating a statutory structure for that leasing period so that it was just a temporary time. But then the city council will do their work. The agreement that we have, we're going to stop that vehicular traffic now. We're going to have a public hearing and really make our case to the public as to why this is critical. I just left a meeting from down there talking to local businesses and neighbors that are down there that have good questions. I ran from there to here for this press event. But that's what has to continue to happen. So we get to that lease agreement after we have this public hearing next Wednesday. That will allow for that area to be closed, an enhanced closure than what you're seeing right now. But ultimately, you'll need to see the legislature act, you'll need to see the city council act. From all the discussion and dialogue that I've heard, I think we're talking a matter of how that will happen, not if. I think that I think people, if they've seen that area or been paying attention, we owe it to those who are most vulnerable. We owe it to public safety to have an area that truly is safe, so that when you have someone that may have resisted going in that area for fear, that we've taken that fear away. And that, again, there's so many people down there. How do you know who to help and how to provide services if we don't know people's stories better than we know right now? That area will help us and be a great conduit of that kind of information we need. And so we'll have to share that with the stakeholders and with the public and get their buy-in.
What does an enhanced closure look like? Could you give us that vision?
So right now, the Hughes Center would be a great example. They have a courtyard, and the Catholic Community Center has a services card that they provide for those that would like access into the Hughes Center. We'd like to take that perimeter, and we'd like to make it larger than just Catholic Community Center. We would like it to be the road home, CCS, but also the street that is in between. We'd like that to be enclosed, and that same type of card would be used to come into that area. What we have found, the feedback that I've received, are criminals really don't like cards. They don't like you taking their picture. They have a very different agenda, and anonymity is the name of their game. So we think that having that secure area and having a services coordination card really deters that organized criminal element from being in an area like that, which in turn will allow for those who truly need the help to be able to access that area without fear.
Let's say you're a criminal and you have that card. Are you able to access that area? Does your criminal history play into your access to that area?
You know, we're contemplating utilizing our dogs, our law enforcement dogs, for drug sniffing as people are going through this area, and also utilizing some of our law enforcement to check for weapons so that we really can make sure that this space remains safe.
Yeah, and I think it's a great question because it's not a bank. It's not airtight. If someone wants to penetrate that perimeter and wants to do that. I don't think we can be bulletproof in that process. I think we can provide a much, much safer environment. But I think some of the things the mayor has described in terms of other law enforcement efforts will increase the safety of that area as well.
Certainly being contemplated.
Now, is there any concern, Mayor, about this presenting an additional barrier to services for people that they will have to have this card? I can understand the speaker says that people who may be enjoying services now will be able to come back to this area feeling safer. What about the person who just doesn't want a card, who hasn't had the chance to get one?
Sure, and Pamela Atkinson is here, and we've had many discussions about how sometimes volunteers just come down and they don't have a card. So we have a committee that is working through this kind of scenario of who needs a card and a particular card and what does that look like, right? Because the volunteers will continue to come and we want to make sure they continue to come. So we are working through that through a committee process.
And let me point out too, there's been a lot of studies. Pew Foundation put out a study. One of the greatest barriers for those experiencing homelessness is a state-issued ID, banking services, being able to apply for a job. The Real ID Act, the federal law that requires the scrutiny for and the verification of someone's ID to be higher than it's been in the past, has actually created an additional barrier or higher barrier to people experiencing homelessness. What has been good about the process that we're going through is you have lawmakers and you have the city and you have the county. We're coordinating these efforts, and if there is a way through a card like this that we could reduce some of those barriers for those trying to seek a state ID, we'd like to see that happen. And so we think that there's a great opportunity, since we're talking with Department of Technology Services, the state's effort to help coordinate and get these service coordination cards there, that maybe this can be a way to overcome some of those barriers that people experiencing homelessness across the country have really had to grapple with because of the Real ID Act and some of the difficult nature of doing it.
Do you think that even closing it off to traffic as far as cars will kind of get people used to the idea of being in that area where they can be safe and maybe just sleep without having to get their stuff stolen? Or
Absolutely. You know, I've been in, as you know, this operation is incredibly important. We've seen great gains. I worry as I see some of this drug act. They're very resilient. They had a great business model going on, and you're seeing that effort trying to re-enter into that area. And so I have been incredibly concerned that in order to maintain the progress we've seen and to make that place and even the surrounding areas even safer, we have to keep this momentum up. As we see that closure for the vehicles, I think that begins to send that message that you've asked, and that is this area is going to start being a safer, more secure place. And to be honest with you, I'm with the way the congregations of crowds have gone, the tracks is right there on 2nd South. You can't turn left on that street at the end of that street anyway. It's just a right-hand turn only. I don't know that it's going to interrupt traffic of those that would be commuting to go to the motel or hotel that's there, or the restaurant, or some of the other facilities. I think that flow of traffic has been avoiding that area anyway, but I know who hasn't avoided that area. And those are the people that were looking for drugs, those that were looking to participate in the drug trafficking that was happening there. That became a very popular corner. And so I think shutting that down to vehicular traffic this weekend is definitely a step in the right direction.
I know one of the things the council talked about with a longer term closure that they're worried about is they say that state law would basically require them to abandon the street. And they say that they don't have much leeway. Does the lease work around that? Is there any way? I know you have a special session coming up.
That's exactly right. And so you've answered your own question,
Okay.
actually. So to the point of abandoning the street versus a better solution, the lease agreement with the state, with the city, would allow for that longer temporary closure, but it would allow for that street to be opened again and through traffic to arrive. But this whole operation is really getting us to that June of 2019, when the resource centers are open and we see that transition from the population that's down there now to these new resource centers. And when that happens, there's a lot of work that has to happen between now and then to make sure that happens successfully, then we want to make sure the city has every ability, and the council has every ability, to enhance that area and see it developed in as successful way as possible.
That's right. So The lease agreement language is still being worked on. We certainly will share it with the council members prior to any sort of signature and make them very aware of the language that's in that.
Are you both on the same page now going forward? Because obviously this follows.
I'm still
fairly
impatient.
close
She
path.
still has to put up with me. I'm still wanting everything yesterday, so she's being very patient. But I am very excited. I'm only here today because
Yeah.
we're moving forward. We're making progress, and that's tough sometimes. It's hard to do, and we're here today because I'll speak for myself, but I'm saying that I'm happy that we are seeing important progress made because I think we need to make that kind of progress.
Is this everything you asked for? Did you just want the street closed to vehicular traffic temporarily?
Well, I think the lease agreement is about a temporary closure of the road to public access. And that's the piece where I really wanted the public to be able to have a voice. And that comes down to some of my own constitutional concerns as well. So it's very important that the public have an opportunity to weigh in if we're going to close this street for a couple of years.
Can you describe for me a little bit more about what the safe space is supposed to look like? Will camping be involved, or will it be allowed, or what will this?
Katie, I hope well, I don't anticipate camping being there. What I anticipate is when you bifurcate, see, the anonymity has helped the criminal element. You don't know who anyone is down there. As you see the criminal element and the hardened drug lords and mules not in this area, we think the capacity at the road home really can accommodate the need for a place to stay, a safe place, a roof over people's heads. And that's why that, even enforcing the encampment ordinance, you're not in a position to even do that until you have some strong and reasonable alternatives. And we think that this is an alternative. And then you can start to enforce those ordinances that are already on the books. But we don't think that the encampment would happen in this safe space. We think we'll have service providers with capacity to help those in need as you see these populations separated from one another.
So, sorry, but with camping, so someone's camping next to the river, they tell them to break down the camp. You can go to this safe place. What do they already do to tell people you can go to the road home?
They could. It's a great question, and I hope everyone heard the question. Couldn't you already say, here's the road home, please go there?
You can do
The reason is I've talked to people that are experiencing homelessness is that there's been a fear. You don't want your stuff stolen when you fall asleep. You don't want a bathroom necessarily closed and drugs being cooked in that bathroom at night. And I don't say that to be critical of the road home. I don't know without an enhanced effort that you're seeing right now and more attention paid to that area to make it safe. I don't know that you could ask any provider to make that area completely safe. It is going to require the state, the county, the city, and our service providers working together so that when we say that to those that camp along the Jordan River or who have been afraid to be in this area, we truly do believe this is an area that you will be safe. You're not going to relapse back into drug addiction because you're going to be asked 300 times if you want drugs. Your things are not going to be stolen from you. So that's why this coordinated effort is so important, because we think that people will come who need those services and feel better about it.
And the difference here is it's going to be managed protected by the state, but state law enforcement.
It'll be in a combined effort, it will.
Yeah, it's a combined service model. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Appreciate your time and your attention to this matter. Thank you.